Saudi Arabia was hit with 3 separate suicide bombings on Monday near one of Islam's holiest sites.
The Muslim world has been shook by the attack. Never has anyone in history attempted a suicide bomb or any sort of a violent attack at the Holy Mosque in Medina, the second most holy site for Muslims in general. It's where the Muslim prophet Muhammad is buried.
At least 4 security officers were killed and 5 wounded when a suicide bomber detonated his vest near the Prophet's Mosque in Medina, one of the holiest sites in Islam. The attacks came as Saudis prepare to break their fast on the penultimate day of the holy month of Ramadan. Ahead of the attack in Medina, 2 other cities were also struck by terrorists.
The security spokesman for the Interior Ministry said that security personnel were suspicious about the movements of a man. When the security staff took the initiative, he blew himself up with an explosive belt. This resulted in his death and the wounding of 2 security staff.
A suicide bomber detonated a device near the U.S. consulate in Jeddah after the first bomb attack hit the city of Qatif, home to many minority Shia Muslims. No one aside from the bombers died in those attacks. There was no immediate claim of responsibility, but it's thought the so-called Islamic State was behind the attacks as the targets closely coincided with the group's enemies. With the ongoing threats, NATO leaders have announced they will approve the use of the airborne warning and control system to help fight the Islamic State. Officials say AWACS planes will be able to fly to Turkish or international airspace and added that it could peer electronically into ISIS strongholds in Syria and Iraq.
The holy month of Ramadan has been marred by a series of attacks around the world. The majority of these horrific acts of terror have been claimed by ISIS. Our Hwang Ho-jun zooms in on the Islamic State militant group's patterns, including its targets and recruits.
A month of prayer and fasting, commemorating the Muslim faith, has been turned into a month of violence and mourning, as terrorist attacks by the Islamic State militant group have left hundreds of people around the world dead or injured. There have been more than 80 terror attacks linked to ISIS since the start of Ramadan on June 5th. These include mass shootings, mass executions, and suicide bombings. At least 9 have had a death toll higher than 20. Most recently, 20 hostages, most of them foreigners, were killed at a bakery cafe in Dhaka, Bangladesh, and a bombing in Baghdad early Sunday left at least 130 dead, including 25 children, turning preparations for the end of Ramadan into a nightmare.
Is this the Eid we should celebrate? People came to buy clothes to celebrate Eid. Now they're buying coffins. May God punish those who are responsible.
ISIS officially claimed responsibility for the Bangladesh hostage crisis and the Baghdad bombing. But it doesn't always claim responsibility for these kinds of attacks. And in that case, investigators rely on what have become the trademarks of ISIS tactics. The New York Times, citing a report it had obtained that was compiled by the French anti-terrorism police for the Interior Ministry, detailed some of these, including the use of suicide vests, coordinated bombings, and shooting sprees to block the police response. The Global Terrorism Index also noted that ISIS usually focuses its attacks on soft targets, civilians including women, children, and especially Shiite Muslims and Middle Eastern Christians. CNN Money carried a report on the big data findings of 3 studies that analyzed the online profiles of ISIS recruits. It found they are generally in their 20s and predominantly male, and they're likely to be middle or upper class and second or third generation immigrants.
Foreign businessman in Ohio wearing a traditional robe and headscarf falsely accused of being a terrorist. A call reporting him to 911 prompting a police takedown, and that triggered international outrage. Here's ABC's Clayton Sandell.
There is a male in a full headdress.
This 911 call to police in Avon, Ohio, now triggering an international response.
With multiple disposable phones, pledging his allegiance or something to ISIS.
A desk clerk working at this Fairfield Inn hotel tells her sister she believes there's a terrorist in the lobby. That sister calls police.
There he is. There he is. Get on the ground!
Get on the ground! Go in, grab his hands, cuff him up. We're cover. Take that phone away.
The suspect is Ahmed Al-Manali, a businessman from the United Arab Emirates.
I'm tourist, and this is good.
Yeah, it's not good. It's right.
But soon police realized the report is false. Al-Manali visiting the U.S. for a heart treatment suddenly faints.
You okay?
Groups that track Islamophobia say the U.S. is seeing a recent spike, anger sometimes directed against innocent Muslims. Marriott, which owns the hotel, says this was a terrible misunderstanding and we deeply regret what happened, saying hotel employees will be getting training in diversity and inclusion. Avon's police chief and mayor are sorry too.
You should not have been put in that situation like you were.
There were some false accusations made against you, and those are regrettable.
And as for that hotel desk clerk, officials tell us tonight she may still be facing criminal charges over that false report. Cecilia.
Okay, Clayton, thank you.
This is definitely something I could see myself running.
At a Western retail store, Miriam Sobs mulls over what she would wear as a Muslim woman.
It's got the trend of the bright pop of color with that scarf there. I would totally wear that on my head.
Because of what's on her head, Sob found her path to a media career blocked. So she started a Muslim fashion blog and YouTube channel, Hijab Trends.
I was trying to get a career in television, and people kept telling me, no, not until you take your scarf off, you cannot be on television. And I thought, well, I'm just going to make my own thing.
That was 10 years ago. Sob now reports for a local radio station, and her blog gets over 2.5 million hits a month. A reflection, she believes, of the growing power of the Muslim consumer. Fashion companies are now trying to catch up.
They realize how much money there is in this market. So in the U.S., the Muslim consumer market is worth $170 billion. Globally, it's in the trillions.
In the coming decades, the Muslim population is expected to grow twice as fast as the global population. By 2050, nearly 1 in 3 people on Earth will be Muslim. So lucrative is this expanding market that in May, Istanbul hosted the world's first ever International Modest Fashion Week.
For years, and it's sort of frustrating that it has to be a big thing. It shouldn't be a big thing that the Prime Minister's walking in Pride Parade, and from now on it won't.
This is a video of a previous encounter. This was back in 2014. In the latest incident, the Chinese Defense Ministry says Japanese fighter jets locked onto Chinese jets using their weapons radar. The Chinese fighter jets made some tactical moves and the Japanese jets flew away. Japan says the Chinese fighter jets posed a threat to the Japanese planes. China rejects that and is urging Japan to stop taking provocative actions over the East China Sea.
Iran says its opportunity to destroy Israel is now better than ever. Iran's president announcing that the nuclear deal with the U.S. was the cheapest way to achieve Iran's goals. The Jerusalem Post reports one official says Iran has more than 100,000 missiles ready to strike Israel. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei also called on Muslim students to launch an even more unified campaign against the U.S. and Israel.
The Israeli army says it has launched strikes against 2 Syrian army positions in the Golan Heights. According to an Israeli army statement, the attack came in response to what it called stray fire coming from the Syrian side. There has been no immediate comments from the Syrian government. Tel Aviv, which is believed to be one of the key supporters of the terrorist groups in Syria, has targeted the region several times in recent years. In September of last year, Israel launched at least 3 airstrikes against Syrian army positions in the Golan Heights. Last month, Syrian media reported similar attacks south of the city of Homs. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu recently acknowledged that the military had attacked dozens of convoys that carried weapons to Lebanese Hezbollah forces who were battling terrorist groups in Syria.
A freak waterspout was captured by onlookers on Saturday just off the coast of Playa Caimito in southern Cuba. Witnesses say they saw as many as 7 waterspouts take form before running for their own safety. Many took shelter inside homes not built for such severe storms. Among them was Madeleine Barban, who credits her neighbors' quick thinking with saving her children.
Eso fue un desastre.
It was an enormous disaster. My kids and I were inside my home, and thank God my neighbor put my kids under the bed. I was in the living room with all the rubble on top of me. It was horrible.
Yo me quedé en la sala y todos los escombros arriba de mí, y eso fue algo horrible.
Waves of up to 16 feet in height crashed along the shore, toppling an estimated 30 homes and properties. At least 38 people were injured in the storm, though no fatalities have been reported. Caught off guard, locals now face the task of building back what they can.